Rest in peace, Myra Craft. Patriots! This one's for you.
Welcome to Patriots Central Radio with Jeremy Dawson and Steve Balestriei.
New England.
And welcome to Patriots Central. We have a very special guest with us today. He's known as the potentate of pigskin, Kerry Byrne, a Massachusetts native. He's also the unofficial mayor of Quincy. Kerry has written for Cold Hard Football Facts. In fact, he started it. He writes for SI. He writes for the Boston Herald, and I'm sure I'm leaving a ton of them out. Kerry, welcome.
Good to be on. Very excited that football's almost here, too. So,
well, let's kick right in with it. We're excited to have you on. Let's talk about the Patriots first. Do you see Alfonso Dennard being in training camp this season? And if he's not, who do you think would take over for him with the Patriots if he was to go, say, to jail for an extended time?
Well, obviously, what he did was not, a high crime, right? I mean, not that we're, saying you should tolerate drunk driving, but, compared to some of the things that have gone on this season, not only with the Patriots, but around the NFL, there's been so many, I think, 30-something arrests of NFL players since the Super Bowl. So,
yeah.
What he did, we don't condone, but compared to some of the things that go on, it wasn't that big a crime. The bigger issue is the political issue, right? That the Patriots are damaged goods right now in the eyes of the public, right? I mean, I don't think there's anyone, even the most, hardcore Patriots fan is really happy with the way things have gone down, with some of the taint on the organization, specifically, obviously, with Aaron Hernandez and how this track record he has, which seems that everybody in Florida knew about, how this track record kind of wasn't caught, or if it was caught, was ignored. So my guess, based on the political side of it, is that probably he's not back. The Patriots need to re-scrub their image. With that said, I don't know who's going to replace him on the roster. I do know this, guys, and this is the long-term institutional issue that has plagued the Patriots since 2004, is they've had a real rough time finding defensive backs, specifically in the draft. The Patriots have drafted pretty well. They don't win 12, 13 games every year because they're drafting poorly, but specifically in the secondary, their track record since Asante Samuel in 2003 is bad, very bad. I mean, guys who, never made the team, barely played in the NFL, guys they devoted high draft picks to, really a very poor track record, and that has had a statistical manifestation. And one of the stats we look at, guys, one of the most important stats in football, defensive passer rating. The NFL is about one thing. It's about how well you pass the football and how well you make opposing quarterbacks struggle. And the Patriots have made it very easy since 2004 for opposing quarterbacks to pass the football. When you look at their defensive passer rating, they weren't good in that indicator last year. And that, guys, is the single statistical reason why this team has not won a Super Bowl since 2004. They've not played very well in the secondary, and of course, part of that is rushing the passer. They haven't rushed the passer very well either, and that's all added up to 9 years now of very good teams that weren't good enough to win the Super Bowl.
Excellent.
I was just wondering, do you think that the Patriots will be looking to add more pieces because of these recent losses, or?
Well, what, Jeremy?
I'm sorry. I was saying, do you think that the Patriots will be looking to add more pieces? Say they lose Dennard. Do you think they'll add pieces, or do you think that they're comfortable with the roster the way it is now with the guys off the line?
No team's ever comfortable, right? The Patriots are a classic team that's always, plucking guys out of retirement, plucking guys off the waiver wire, plucking guys from the back of other teams' rosters and making them serviceable players. I mean, that's been, if anything, makes Bill Belichick a great coach. It's been that ability, right? I mean, let's look at the receiver position. Look at some of the guys who have contributed to this team over the years. Is not superstars, but very solid, serviceable players in the New England offense. Go back, David Gibbons, guys like that, Deion Branch, who we all thought was a great player here in New England, and in Seattle didn't turn out to be a particularly great wide receiver. The Patriots do have a history of kind of finding those guys and making them pretty serviceable players on that roster. So they're always going to be making moves. To me, the question really is this: is Brady good enough? Okay, we're going to find out what a Hall of Famer is this year. Is he good enough to overcome the devastating attrition in that receiving core. I've always contended that Tom Brady could play with 2 tackling dummies at wideout and still put up, Pro Bowl numbers. And we're going to find out this year because he may be throwing the tackling dummies at some point in the season. I mean, the Patriots have lost. Assuming Rob Gronkowski isn't healthy, guys, and we still don't know how good he's going to be, if he's going to be back to form. Long history now going back to college of injuries. The Patriots have lost 88% of their production, receiving production from last year. 88% of their catches, 88% of their receptions. Of their yards, 88% of their touchdowns. I don't know if any quarterback has ever had to overcome that kind of attrition. But Brady's proved that whoever they put out there, he can make things happen. That's one issue. And then, can this defense improve? Can they get back to the playmaking defense that helped them win Super Bowls? And that, to me, is really the biggest issue and has been the biggest issue since 2004.
Definitely, I agree with there. So with all these changes and stuff, usually, the expectations on the Patriots are immensely high. Just how you said, that's why, the defensive passer rating, that's the reason that they haven't won the Super Bowl. And, just to say that, this team hasn't been successful because they haven't won a Super Bowl, it's kind of strange in a sense. And I was wondering if, all the talk about the Patriots right now has been the punches that they've taken. Ever since Walker left, it's just downhill. So do you think they're coming in this with the same expectations as usual, or are they kind of a team that people expect is going to get thrown back in with the rest of the pack?
Well, listen, good question. But success is relative, right? For the Patriots to lose the AFC title game, that's considered not a successful season, right? But that's a sign of, the institutional success. So that's a sign of the expectations. And I don't think you want to lose that, right? Saying you don't have you had an unsuccessful season if you don't win the Super Bowl, I think fans want that. Don't you want to be the fan of that team, that the standards are that high? So I don't take that as a knock on the team. I think that's really a sign of what a victory machine. This has been the Patriots have owned or shared the division title, the best record in the division. They lost the division twice on tiebreakers. The best record in the division every year since 2001, okay? That's 11 seasons in a row. 12 seasons. Nobody's ever done that in the history of football. That's amazing in this day and age. So that's a tribute to what success, really means to that organization. So with that said, they've taken plenty of lumps. I think they could take a step back. But I look at this, guys, and I said this on another show, okay? The Patriots have lost their way in certain respects, okay? When they won Super Bowls, they were a very efficient offense led by a very wily quarterback who could make big plays in big games, and a defense that did the same. And what they did after the loss, to me, the pivotal game in the modern history of this organization, when they lost to the Colts in the 2006 AFC title game, they lost a 38-34 shootout. And how the team responded was by saying, you know what, we need to remake ourselves and become a team that could win shootouts. That was the wrong move to make. That offense scored 34 points in that game. That was the day their defense was exposed, and they've never really got that defense back to Super Bowl caliber. And that, to me, has really been the bigger issue. And I think the team has to go back to the fundamental football that really made them a dynasty a decade ago. That, to me, I think this is an opportunity for the Patriots to say, wait a minute, guys, we got to go back to, we can't be the superstar team we've been the last 6 years, 7 years, whatever it's been. We have to go back to being, the Patriots coming out of a team type Patriots, not a team of superstars. And they've become a team of superstars. And that sometimes it works in the history of the NFL, guys, but more often than not, those flashy offensive teams that don't have a very solid defense don't win championships. It's simple as that. I've studied every great offense in the history of football. All 55 teams. 55 teams in the history of football averaged 30 or more points per game. Most of them got wiped out in the postseason because they weren't all-around fundamental teams. They were flashy teams, and that's what the Patriots have become. I look at it as an opportunity to get back to who they were, to get back to the championship Patriots. It could be a blessing in disguise in a lot of ways, guys, provided Brady has a few more years in him.
Kerry, speaking about the Patriots defense, and I know we were looking forward to training camp starting. I think they're putting a lot of emphasis on the second-year development of Hightower and Chandler Jones. Yep. And one of the guys that I thought they signed that was under the radar free agent signing was Adrian Wilson, who to me is a guy that fulfills a great need for them on this defense. Do you think that these guys, with the moves they've made, I know their first draft pick was Jamie Collins, also on defense, did they do enough for this defense to turn itself around?
Well, I can tell you this: they have drafted for need in recent years, and sometimes, you know, at least in the last 2 years, and a couple of years before that, they really didn't. Between Chandler Jones, between Jamie Collins, and guys who have some pass rushing talent, guys who have some game-breaking talent, if those guys can live up to that talent, that makes all the difference in the world. One of the stats we track, guys, is negative pass play percentage. How many opponent dropbacks end in sacks or interceptions? And that's largely a function of pass rush, of course, of making quarterbacks uncomfortable. And the Patriots have not had that in recent years, you know, probably since Willie McGinnis left, right? I mean, they really haven't replaced him. If these guys can live up to that, especially the edge rushers like Collins and Jones, if these guys can live up to that potential, yes, they could remake the defense. And the thing about Wilson I like, okay, one, he's an older player, right? But he's not too old. I mean, I think he's 32, 33 years old. He's in the league, 10, 11 years. So, with that said, he was, a star player, guys, on the number one pass defense in football last year. I know the Cardinals were not a good team. They were not a good team because they were ranked 32nd in every single measure of passing efficiency. You can't win in the NFL without a quarterback, and the Cardinals didn't have a quarterback. But they were number one in the NFL in defensive pass rating, the stat I told you about last year. I mean, the stat I told you about earlier in this segment. If the Patriots had that Arizona defense last year and Tom Brady, they would have gone 19-0 and won the Super Bowl. They would have been literally unstoppable. They didn't have that defense, though. So what they're getting in Wilson is a guy who was a very good player on the best pass defense in football, and I see that as an upgrade, guys. The team that did that, if you go back to 2009, the New Orleans Saints had struggled in pass defense, and they acquired Darren Sharper. Darren Sharper is a Hall of Fame defensive back, one of the best safeties to ever play the game, one of the leading interception machines in the history of football. And what happened is he had a monster year in 2009. He led the NFL in interceptions. The New Orleans Saints, people thought they couldn't play pass defense, but they were third in the NFL in defensive pass rating. They gave up a lot of yards. They were 26th in total yards allowed. And everyone said in the Super Bowl, Peyton Manning's going to go nuts on him. And we said, no. Peyton Manning's going to get shut down. He's going to make a critical mistake because the Saints were third in defensive pass rating, the stat you need to look at. And what happened in that Super Bowl, the Saints secondary played very well and got a big pick six in the late moments of the game to secure the win. The game went exactly as the numbers said it would. So I don't know if Wilson will have that kind of impact. He's not Darren Sharper, but that's what it reminds me of. If he can play well, if he can be a big-time player, he could be the type of player that makes that type of impact that Sharper made. Sharper, not Drew Brees, was the MVP of the New Orleans Saints in 2009. And then when he got injured, he didn't really play again for the Saints, and their pass defense has sucked since. They haven't recovered from the loss of Darren Sharper. For that 1 year, he made them a champion. And that's what, if Wilson can bring a similar impact, even to a lesser extent, to the Patriots, that really could change things, guys. That could be the guy they need to get back to that championship caliber defense.
So just to back away from the Patriots for a second, I just got to say your website, the Cold Hard Football Facts, it's an awesome website. And I understand you guys, definitely, and you guys have a different way to analyze a game than most other people, and it's this whole quality stats thing that you guys have, and it's clear as you're speaking to us, you know a lot of the important stats. Could you just elaborate on exactly what the quality stats is?
A quality stat is this, guys. A quality stat is a stat that has a direct correlation to winning football games. We look only at those stats that win and lose games, okay? And let me cite an example. I mentioned it earlier in terms of pass defense when the 2009 Saints gave up all those yards. Do not look at total yards allowed and total yards gained. Like people say, such and such a team is third in total offense. So but purely based on the yards they generate. But yards don't always translate to points. A lot of those yards are wasted. And what we look at are efficiency indicators. What we find are these efficiency indicators win and lose football games. Let's look at passing yards. Everyone gets excited about the sexy quarterback who has a 400-yard passing game, right? But if you pass for 400 yards, you usually lose the game. Teams last year that passed for the most yards went 127 and 125. They were basically 500. If you pass for more yards, it's a crapshoot if you're going to win. If you look at passer rating, guys, if you just look at passer rating, passing efficiency, teams last year went 209 and 46. They won 82% of NFL games. Don't look at yards. Look at pass efficiency. Look at what we have a stat we call real quarterback rating. If you were better in this indicator last year, guys, you went 218 and 37. You won almost 90% of all NFL games. So that's what we look at when we size up teams with our quality stats. We look at, are you better in the stats that win and lose games? And that's how we make our picks. And at Cold Hard Football Facts Insider, our premium product, where we pick games, guys, we have an incredible track record of success because we look at the stats that win and lose games, and we tell you how often teams win games when they're better than this indicator. Down the final stretch of the year, from week 15 through the Super Bowl, teams better in real quarterback rating, guys, went 54-9. They won 92% of all NFL games just by being more efficient in real quarterback rating, which measures all aspects of QB play. Teams with more passing yards were 500. We're under 500 down the stretch. It's all about that efficiency. So that's what a quality stat is. And I think that, guys, is why we have the best analysis on the web, because we're not throwing out numbers that sound good but are meaningless. We're telling you the numbers you need to follow to understand football. I'm not trying to sound, cocky about it. I'm just telling you, we chronicle it. We chronicle the correlation of victory and the predictive rate of victory, and that's why we use the stats we use.
Definitely. I was reading your article recently on the exact numbers of how your predictions have gone, and it was like over 70% of all the weeks you've predicted over the last 4 years. At least half of them
500
went
better
over
against
500.
spread, 3 out of 4 weeks since the start of the 2009 season.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And this is, that's against the spread, guys. That's picking against the public marketplace of ideas. It's an arbitrary number. 49
right.
to 68 weeks, so just shy of 3 out of 4, 72% of weeks. And down the stretch, guys, our numbers get more valid later in the season because we have more evidence. And the numbers are just statistically more valid, right? In week 15 than they are in week 2. We have more evidence to know that really player X is better than player Y. And if you look at us down the stretch, dude, over the last 2 years, from week 16 through the Super Bowl, we are 57-28 against the spread from week 16 through the Super Bowl over the last 2 years. That's 67% against the spread in the toughest games of the year because we're looking at the right numbers, guys. It's simple as that.
Any final questions, Steve?
Yeah, I know the time is running short here, Kerry, and we appreciate your time, but who do you see right now as the front runner for this year's Super Bowl?
Oh, I felt pretty good last year. I had San Francisco from the NFC. I had the Patriots from the AFC. Almost came to fruition. And the Patriots, let's face it, during the regular season, we're a better team than Baltimore. But Baltimore just got hot late. They got hot at the right time. Joe Flacco was the best quarterback in football in January and February. Without question, he was the most efficient, most productive quarterback, and that's why the Ravens came from 10-6 to become champion. This year, I don't see it quite as clear, guys. I really don't. We'll be doing our predictions in a couple weeks. I still think the 49ers are a threat, but the team that really intrigued me from about week 8 to week 9 on last year were the Seattle Seahawks. I thought they were the best team in football. They didn't prove it in the playoffs, but I think with Russell Wilson with another year under his belt, he's better than Andrew Luck, guys. I think he's better than RG3. I think he's going to prove more durable. I think he is the class of the rookie quarterbacks. He's clearly better than Andrew Luck by any empirical measure. This guy was a stud last year. And, by the way, with a really, the number one scoring defense in football. So right now, if I'm making an early prediction, we'll have, like I said, we'll have them all out coming up in August. But I like Seattle as the NFC, guys. I think they're a dangerous team. I think they're good and all the things you need to be good at. Denver's kind of the cliched pick out of the AFC, but I don't know. Peyton Manning's postseason track record is what it is. He never seems to play his best football. That's an empirical fact in the postseason. I like Pittsburgh to rebound. Ben Roethlisberger had a great year last year, believe it or not. If that defense can get back to Pittsburgh quality football, the Steelers are always dangerous. They never have 2 bad seasons in a row. And guys, the Patriots still have arguably the best quarterback in football and one of the best of all time in Tom Brady, and that is always a big checkbox, on your, a big check in the box on your side. So I wouldn't count the Patriots out just yet, guys. Would not count them out just yet, despite all the off-season controversy.
Well, excellent stuff, Kerry, as always, and we really appreciate your time coming on, and we hope to have you back on again real soon.
All right, gentlemen, keep up the good work. We'd love to join you anytime. Steve, you were kind enough to join us last year, so happy to be with you guys anytime. So.
And I still can't believe Fox 25 did their zip trip to Quincy and didn't have you on as a guest.
You know what? I get so many. I got emails and tweets about that. In fact, one was it you who tweeted Gene Levanchi?
Yes, I did.
Okay, someone else, a couple other people sent me messages. I got a call from a friend during the show. Why don't they have you on? Because people, I think I have a rep as the mayor of Quincy. You know what I mean? I'm lived here my whole life. It's a great town, and but I wasn't on the call list apparently from their producers this time.
Well, thank you. Thanks again, Kerry. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Football fans, looking to get healthy this year? Now is the time, and I have the perfect place for you. Save 10% at onit.com/football radio. Exclusive PFC radio listeners save 10% off their order. That's onnit.com, ONNIT.com/football radio.
And welcome back to Patriots Central, where you have another special guest with us right now, Derek Evans, who's a writer for PatsFans.com. He also is a co-host on Patriots Sports too. Derek, welcome to Patriots Central. You're on the air with Steven Jeremy.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Not bad. How's it going?
Doing well.
Pretty good
So
to
let's
hear. I'm
jump
doing
right into
pretty
it.
well.
We were talking with Kerry Byrne about the Patriots this upcoming season. We're going to talk about the preseason stuff here. So, Derek, who do you see as the Patriots wide receivers week 1 going against Buffalo?
Week 1 against Buffalo, that's a tough call. I would say probably at the moment, Danny Amendola is really the only lock as a receiver. I know for the past couple of years, the team has had high hopes for Julian Edelman to develop, although his injury history has really kind of, I guess, slowed down his progression. Although we have seen flashes of him, I know that he'll probably be incorporated into the offense. I have high hopes personally for the 2 receivers they drafted this year. In the 2nd round, Aaron Dawson from Marshall, and also in the 4th round, Josh Boyce of TCU. Both of them had some nagging injuries in minicamp, but I'm hoping they're going to be full participation in terms of training camp. I think the Patriots' biggest criticism over the past couple of years, besides the fact that their defense will be their just lack of development for young receivers. And I think that if both of those guys can come in and contribute, I think that would be a big boost for this team offensively. And I also think that you could get a sprinkling of veterans in terms of either Michael Jenkins or Donald Jones. It's going to be a battle in spring camp. It should be fun to watch.
Good stuff. Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going? First question, I was wondering which rookie do you see having the biggest impact on Patriots this season?
I'm sorry?
Sorry, my question was, which rookie do you see having the largest impact on the New England Patriots this season?
Which rookie has the largest impact on the team this season? I will go ahead and say, as of now, Aaron Dawson. I think that Jamie Collins is probably going to be used in terms of, as kind of a sparing role in the front 7, kind of moving him all around in the rover position, playing, kind of seeing where he fits. I think the Patriots' front 7 is pretty strong, so I don't think they'll see as many snaps right away. You could make a case for Logan Ryan, the cornerback from Rutgers. I think that there's a potential opportunity if the team decides to part ways with Alfonso Bernard, which is kind of pending this at this moment with his suspicion of DUI arrest this week, although he is still on the team. But for right now, I'll say Aaron Dawson because they targeted him pretty high in the draft. I mean, second round pick. And let's be honest, there's an opportunity for receivers to contribute right now. This team is going through part of a kind of a redo position with wide receivers. And with the Aaron Hernandez saga, how it unfolded, and now they've lost him and Wes Welker through free agency, I think there's going to be an opportunity for someone like Dawson to come in and some high amount of snaps and make some plays in the season. I think he's had the largest impact.
Let's talk about the defense again for a moment. I know you and I have talked about this in the past. Jamie Collins, Logan Ryan, bringing in Adrian Wilson. Have they done enough this year to bring the defense back to where they should be?
Well, that's a tough call, Steve, because they have made some additions, but I think really it just comes down to if this secondary can kind of build off their performance from last season. And not only that, but if Chandler Jones and Donta Hightower, who are going into their second years, if they can kind of progress forward and make that kind of second-year jump that so many people point to, I think this team's success will kind of hinge on Chandler Jones, and if he can get after the quarterback like he did at the beginning of his rookie year. He slowed down kind of towards injuries and with whatever kind of rookie wall you want to kind of label that as. But I think that Chandler Jones, if he is in the mid-teens in terms of sacks, and if Donta Hightower can be the aggressive player that he's flashed and kind of makes some plays, I think that's going to do a very, very, I think it's going to be big for this defense. And also, the addition of Adrian Wilson. Some people have said that he's not the player he used to be, and obviously he's not going to be the player he was, say, 6 years ago. But if he can come in and continue to kind of stabilize that middle along with Devin McCourty, and then, stabilize that middle of the backfield and have, Akeem Talib or Alfonso Denard and, the other cornerbacks, I think he will just do a lot for the defense in terms of just not allowing the big plays. And if they can kind of get these progressions from all these players and get all these players to contribute, I think you're looking at a team that could really go far. And I think the defense probably at this point obviously still needs some work, but there is reason for hope, no doubt.
Good stuff, Derek, as always. Jeremy.
So you brought up Logan Ryan in my last question, and I was wondering if Alfonso Denard is not with the Patriots, which seems like a realistic option, who are you more comfortable taking his place? Would it be Rossai Dowling or Logan Ryan?
I would say Logan Ryan simply because of Dowling's injury history. Now Dowling was a very, very good cornerback coming out of Virginia, but he did have some injury kind of woes, and really he's had them all the way since high school. But he did start his Patriots career starting against Miami, and ever since then you've seen kind of flashes that you're like, wow, this guy can really hang. But I haven't seen him put it together consistently enough to say that you can rely on him. Now, Logan Ryan, on the other hand, is a rookie, and you don't know what you have in him. But I would say that the kind of aggression that Ryan plays with, his size and his overall skill set, I would feel pretty, I wouldn't say comfortable, but I would feel much better about Ryan starting and just kind of seeing what you have in him, at least for week one, or at least for the first couple of weeks, and see how it sets in from there. Now, would that happen? I think if Dowling is healthy through training camp, he makes the team, and if Denard is not with the team, we're going to probably see Dowling start simply because he is a veteran on this team, and we know how Bill Belichick will lean towards the veterans early and kind of wean the rookies in slowly. But at the same time, I would think that Ryan would be the better option, at least for long term for this season, because I just can't trust Dowling at this point.
It's definitely a fair analysis. Dowling has been kind of a mess with injuries. Steve?
Well, Derek, let's talk about some training camp issues. Who do you see as a big sleeper coming forward this year in camp?
Big sleeper for training camp. Well, I think there's going to be two here. I'll give you one for both offense and defense. The first offensive one, it's receiver Josh Boyce. And I know that he's probably not the biggest sleeper, but I think this is a guy who could be very, very good in this offense, and I think he can play in the NFL. I like what his overall game is, and if he does have a, kind of a foot issue, but, he ran a 4.38 at the NFL Combine with a broken bone in his foot. He is rehabbing, no signs of any kind of setbacks. If he can come in and get healthy for training camp and he's able to work his way into the system, I kind of like him as like a Victor Cruz type. Now, I'm not saying he will be as good as Victor Cruz, but I think you could see him inside, maybe play some outside. I like his playmaking ability, his big play ability, and I think that his speed is kind of a dynamic presence that this offense hasn't really had a lot of. And I think that he has an opportunity to kind of step right in. Like I said with the case with Dawson a couple minutes ago, this offense is definitely kind of in flux right now, and there are some pieces that kind of moving around, and it's going to be different this year than it was for last. So I think there's definitely an opportunity for Boyce to kind of step in, and I think he could contribute. And if he does get his opportunity, I have high hopes for him as well. Even more so than Dawson. I'm biased, but I'm just looking at how I've evaluated them throughout the offseason, and as much as I think both can contribute, I think Dawson could be a sleeper, and I like his playmaking ability potential. Defensive sleepers, This again might not be a big sleeper or anything, but I think it could be Donta Hightower. Now, what I mean by that is, as much as I just said he will be, or he needs to be rather, making a second jump. This is a player who, when he was drafted from Alabama, really the sky was the limit in terms of what he could bring to the table because he has so much talent. Now, after he had his knee injury, you could see kind of some hesitancy on film. He wasn't the kind of attacking player that he was. I think that people are kind of not really counting him out, but I don't think they're considering him a playmaker that I think he can be. I think that if he is, you saw flashes of it last year of him attacking the quarterbacks and flying around the ball. I think people, are on defense are looking at Chandler Jones as they should be, are looking at the secondary, thinking about Mayo and Wilfork. I think Hightower's kind of left out of the equation a good amount of times. I think that for training camp, I want to see how he moves, how he attacks the ball, and just really how they use him. Because I think when they used him and moved him around last year and sent him on some blitzes and kind of asked him to do different jobs, he excelled when healthy. Now, he did have some problems, so similar to Jones, it will be a big, big thing for this defense and this team overall to see him make some progression. So I think he's kind of a sleeper. I think people are just forgetting about him.
Great stuff, Derek.
I was wondering, kind of on the same topic of sleepers, but kind of flipping it a little. As we get into training camp and preseason, who is a player who could maybe is expected to start now but could lose his position?
Well, I think expected to start now but could lose his position. Well, are we talking about offense, defense, both sides of the ball?
Either side. I mean, let's go defense.
Well, I think for defense, you could see a guy like Adrian Wilson, who I think a lot of people have, I'd say, pretty interesting expectations for in terms of you have a large majority of people who think he can contribute and most likely will start because he's an upgrade over Steve Gregory. But at the same time, there are the other people who are saying that he wasn't the player he used to be, and he really fell off a little bit last year in Arizona. Now, I think we've seen this movie before with Patriots where they sign a veteran, we think he's going to start, and all of a sudden he doesn't make it through camp or he just doesn't fit for whatever reason. I think there's a chance Adrian Wilson, doesn't go ahead and start. Now, also, I think you could look at Brandon Spikes too. Brandon Spikes, who knows really what's going on with Brandon Spikes except for Brandon Spikes himself. He was the only player not present for off-season OTAs, and he was doing his kind of own workouts. Now, I think most people expect him to start. He had a pretty good year last year. But I'm interested to see how seriously he took his training. I know there are reports that he wants to get a big contract. He wants an extension. And if he wants that, he's going to have to earn it by staying on the field and bringing the kind of energy that Spikes has shown that he can bring in his Patriots career. But if he shows up and he's out of shape or gets hurt or anything, I think the Patriots front office, and especially Bill Belichick, could go ahead and say, you know what, I think it's time for, say a player like Jamie Collins to get his opportunity. They drafted him, they drafted him high in the second round, the team's first selection in this last draft. I think they could throw him in the mix and kind of see what he could do, especially because I think Collins, who has a lot more athletic ability and has definitely much more smooth hips in terms of being able to play pass coverage and can be a three-down player, I think that if Spikes doesn't go ahead and impress early, that he could lose his job to a player like Collins, although the fact that he is a rookie, like I said earlier, for Belichick, he kind of favors the veterans. I think it could be a bit of a shock if Spikes lost his job, but I wouldn't totally rule it out if he's not coming in and taking everything seriously. Now, I do think he is, and I think he will be in good shape. I'm curious to see what he looks like, when training camp is opened, and we'll have to find out then. But I think that both Spikes and Wilson should be on alert. Spikes, for one, just like I said, for, what has he been doing this offseason? Kind of went off the grid. Let's see what he looks like. And Wilson as a guy who I think a lot of people penciled in as a starter, but we've seen this team sign veterans and then cut them before the season starts so many times before. I'm kind of sketching him into some soft pencil right now. Although personally, my opinion is he will start and he will make a pretty big impact in the secondary.
That's definitely interesting how you brought up Brandon Spikes. I know me and Steve during one of our episodes, one of our first episodes that we did on Patriots Central, we had a mailbag segment, and one of the people asked if maybe we drafted Jamie Collins in the first round to replace Brendan Blake. So it's definitely interesting that you said that.
Well, I think that you've seen this team over the past couple of years take a player, and more specifically a position, that was really kind of a surprise, but it wasn't as much of a surprise as it was the season after. For instance, when the team drafted, Devin McCourty, the team didn't really have a big cornerback need at this time. Sean Springs, Lee Bottom was on the team, among other defensive backs, and as much as those guys weren't, high quality players, they were legit starters at that time, and a year, all of a sudden McCourty was starting, and a year time gone, both of those veterans were gone, and he was in the role. You've seen that several times. I could go on with several examples, but I think that for this instance, I think there is a chance that Spikes is going into a contract year. I think he has been a little bit disappointing in terms of the playmaking ability. I thought he would make some more plays. And he does seem to have those cement blocks in his shoes sometimes where he just can't move fast enough. And then there are questions about how he's working out with the team and how he's taking his conditioning on the off season. I'm just curious because, maybe the team is looking forward and say, his year's coming up. He's going to be looking to get paid. He's not going to be worth the investment. It's time to go ahead and bring a guy like Jamie Collins in, throw him in the rotation slowly, bring him up more snaps, and then hopefully he can develop. And then you look at Mayo, Collins, and Hightower as those athletic linebackers in a 4-3 where you can really move around and have some tremendous flexibility with their athletic prowess.
Right, yeah, the athletic ability would definitely be refreshing to see along that defensive line. But that's all of our questions for you today. I definitely want to thank you for coming on, Eric, and want to just tell our people where they can find you writing and where they can find you on Twitter.
Right, well, my Twitter handle is Patriots Haven. That's Haven. I am on Patriots.com. I'm sorry, not Patriots.com. PatsFans.com. writing about the Patriots. We have a bunch of different things going on in terms of analysis and content. A great message board, and then myself, Steve Balestriei, and Russ Goldman. We run a podcast for PatsFans.com called Patriots 4th and 2. You can download that on iTunes, and we got a lot of great stuff coming up. But I appreciate you guys having me on.
Last week on Packers Central Radio.
Tonight we are joined on Packers Central by second-year defensive end Jarrell Worthy. What should Packer fans expect from last year's draft class, and what will be the second season for you guys?
I think the Packer Nation should be really excited, especially defensive-wise, because, last year we were young, we were inexperienced, but everybody got a chance to be in the rotation. There's a lot of guys on our team that were rookies last year that got a chance to start in the actual game, including guys like Desmond Moses. And we had an opportunity to just go out there and compete. And that's one thing that Coach Cabers has instilled in us is just go out there and compete. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes, everything's not going to go the right way. But just go out there and showcase your skills and just allow your athletic ability to take over. I think they're going to be very excited this year because of the fact that, we're young, but we got a lot of experience last year.
Football fans, check out ProFootballCentral.com for all the latest NFL news and analysis. Also, check out the very popular Pro Football Central radio network for awesome NFL talk around the league. Go to ProFootballCentral.com. ProFootballCentral.com.
And we'd just like to thank our guests again for joining us on Patriots Central. Everyone tune in to our next episode, and thank you for tuning in. Steve, want to close us out?
Yeah, and we'd like to thank everyone, like Jeremy said, and if anyone has any questions for us in any of our upcoming shows, especially with training camp coming up, you can send them to us at Patriots Central. You can find us on the Patriots Central and Pro Football Central. We're all part of that, and we thank you for listening.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Football Central Network. For news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.